Good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock. We're live now, but we have folks coming into the chambers, so we will welcome that, as I don't want to get ahead of ourselves and be reading the land acknowledgement without the respect that it deserves. So we'll just hang tight for 1 minute while everybody files in. There's opportunity to sit on the other side of the chambers as well. Don't feel awkward. It's all good. So it looks like everybody that wants to be in the chambers is here. And we'll just allow everybody an opportunity to take a seat. Good evening and welcome to our February 21st Municipal Council meeting. At this time, I will call the meeting to order. Please note, everyone, that Mayor Haxon is absent with notice, and in my role of acting mayor, I will be chairing this meeting. Item B on the agenda tonight is declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from any of the council members here tonight? Seeing none, I will move on to our land acknowledgement statement. The town of East Gwillimbury recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally used and occupied by the first peoples of the Williams Treaties First Nations and other Indigenous peoples. And on behalf of council, I thank them for sharing this land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as East Gwillimbury's closest First Nation community and recognize the unique relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and we join them in these responsibilities. So moving through the agenda tonight, deputations, item D, we have none at this time. E, presentations, we have none at this time. And that takes us to item F, which is our council committees, boards, and groups. And the first item is the Youth Advisory Committee report, whereby they're exploring transit options for East Gwillimbury youth. So would love a mover and a seconder to table this item. So Councillor Crone, Councillor Carruthers, thank you. And with that, I know Councillor Carruthers is the committee liaison, but I believe that General Manager Karmazin is going to walk us through this. Mr. Karmazin.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, sir. Parks, Rec and Culture works with our Youth Advisory Committee of Council to engage and empower youth and advocate for programs and services for youth within our community. The committee has presented to Council a report to work with York Region Transit to enhance service delivery for youth, in particular with our recreation centres and the anticipated health and active living plaza. And as well, a memo is provided to Council from the committee that provides an update to Council on an exciting youth event that will be occurring at the East Gwillimbury Sports Complex on April 19th from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m., where we're seeking to connect youth, provide opportunities for youth to be active, as well as seek input into different services and programs that we may provide youth within our community. Our council liaison is for the Youth Advisory Committee is Councillor Carruthers, and our town staff liaison is for the committee is Alex Wright, our recreation coordinator with Parks and Recreation. Alex is joining us this evening with members of our Youth Advisory Committee, and I'd like to invite Alex to and request that Alex introduce the committee members to council.
Thank you, General Manager Karmazin, and good evening, Acting Mayor, members of Council, and staff. Thank you for having us here today. As the staff liaison for the Youth Advisory Committee, I would like to introduce each member of the committee that is here today. I would ask that they stand up when I call their name. So our Chair, Sajin, our Vice Chair, Addison, our Secretary, John, one of our youth members, Julia, one of our youth members, Melina, and one of our adult members, Tiu. Thank you for your time. We look forward to seeing this committee support the youth in East Gwillimbury this year.
Wonderful, thank you, and congratulations, and thank you very much for your leadership. It's wonderful. Any members of council wish to share comments, questions? Councillor Crothers?
I'll start. We have both of these before us at the same time, but I'll start with the committee report on transit. This is nothing new to council. We've discussed this before, and this is just formally asking that council direct staff to explore alternatives for greater transit services within the town and report back with viable options in Q3 2024. So they like something to be looked at prior to the help opening, so hopefully coming back with some options, and they have brainstormed some ideas there in the report, so we're just looking for council to support the advice of this advisory committee.
Any other members of, Councillor Roy DiClemente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to support it. I did note with some interest that the town of Georgina has a facility opening, and that there was some transit specifically being put in place in order to bring residents as well as the employees of that facility to work. And so I think this is absolutely very timely, and I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Any other members of council? Okay, seeing none. We've got a mover and seconder. We've had our discussion. All those in favor? Motion carries. Wonderful. Okay, so the next item is still with youth, our Youth Advisory Committee memo. Need someone to move and second that, to table that. Councillor Leahy and Councillor Crothers. Wonderful, thank you. And again, similar to the last item, I'll turn it over to you, Councillor Crothers.
Thank you. So this is just a memo just to update council on what this committee is doing. They're looking at having an event to bring in youth from across the town to the sports complex. They've booked the Canada Hall. They're working within their existing budget and are looking at having the event on April 19th from 5:30 to 8:30. The youth have come up with a number of events that they're each going to take a role in leading, and I think it's a great opportunity to bring youth across the town together and solicit their input on a number of issues affecting youth. So we're going to have a dotmacracy up there so people can put down where they think we should be spending our time as far as youth issues go. So it's a great event, and as I said, we're not asking for any additional funds, but just wanted council to be aware because we will be asking for staff support in the way of communications and setting up the hall and that sort of thing, and everyone here is invited to come out and help out as well. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Yep, Councillor Roy DiClemente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to suggest also that the committee engage the library as well. They might be able to provide some programming or some assistance as well. So perhaps they could reach out to someone at the library to engage with them. Thank you.
If I may. Already have. They've reached out to Raymond. They wanted to do the photo booth like they did we did at the employee recognition, so we recommended the library. So thank you.
Great. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. I would just throw out to the committee if there's anything that we can do up here on this side of the table to help out. At least we can. I'm sure we can all promote it on our social media channels. But if there's anything else that we might be able to do to help out, please do not hesitate to ask. Thank you for everything that you're doing.
Any other members? Seeing none, we've got the mover, seconder. All those in favor? Motion carries. Wonderful. So folks in the audience, we're just going to do some procedural housekeeping here. So this is going to be a little bit boring to some folks. The council recommend if the youth want to stay all night. It's going to be a good time. But if you want to leave now, you can. So, all right. Thank you very much for volunteering, and thank you for your leadership. It's wonderful. So we're just going to do some housekeeping. So committee recommendations. So item G1, it's to adopt the committee of the whole council recommendations from a meeting held on February 6th. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Leahy. Be it resolved that the council adopt the committee of the whole recommendations from the meeting held on February 6th, 2024. All those in favor? All those opposed, motion carries. So now we go to item H, which is the adoption of the minutes. Item 1 is to adopt the Committee of the Whole Council minutes from the meeting held on February 6, 2024, moved by Councillor Crone, seconded by Councillor Foster. Be it resolved that Council adopt the Committee of the Whole Council minutes from the meeting held on February 6. All those in favor? Those opposed, motion carries. Lots of February 6 happening here. Item 2 is to adopt council minutes from the special meeting held on February 6, 2024, and the regular meeting held on February 6, 2024, moved by Councillor Carruthers, seconded by Councillor Crone. Thank you. Be it resolved that council adopt the following minutes: council meeting minutes from special meeting held on February 6, 2024, and council minutes from the regular meeting held on February 6, 2024. All those in favor? Wonderful. Motion carries. Okay, that takes us to our item I, which is our statutory public meeting. And the first one tonight is the zoning bylaw amendment application, Grandview Equestrian Farms, Inc., 17743 McCowan Road. I just wanted to speak to some procedural comments first, as this is really a provincial receiving sounding board, so to speak, and so there's kind of rules in place to conduct the statutory meeting. So members of the public, this portion of the council meeting is a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act. The purpose of this meeting is to inform the public and obtain public input on 2 planning applications received by the town prior to a full technical analysis being conducted by our staff. No decision to approve or refuse the applications will be made here tonight. There will be presentations from both town planning staff and applicants on these development applications. Following these presentations, members of the public will be invited to offer their comments or concerns respecting the proposals. If you don't feel comfortable, you can also make your submissions in writing. It is very important that the town receive the names and addresses of individuals having an interest in these planning applications. If you plan to speak at council tonight, or if you wish to be notified of any future council meetings concerning the applications being considered, you must provide your contact information to the clerk. Madam Clerk, who is going to be receiving that, being able to document?
Through you, Mr. Chair, our deputy clerk as well as our legislative coordinator in the back of the room have the forms.
The big
So
wave, there we go.
if we don't have you on a pre-registered list, the names would have to be captured on those forms.
Great, thank you. So continuing on, under the Planning Act, the applicant or residents have a right to appeal any decision of council on a planning application to the Ontario Land Tribunal. But you must verbally express any comments or concerns here tonight, or submit any comments or concerns in writing to the town before a bylaw is passed. And the tribunal may dismiss all or part of an appeal made in respect of an application. So this public meeting is being audio and video recorded for storing and broadcasting on the internet. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information is being collected and maintained for the purpose of sending correspondence relating to matters before council and creating a record that is available to the public in hard copy format and on the internet in an electronic format pursuant to Section 27 of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Questions about the collection of personal information should be directed to the clerk. Before I turn it over to the general manager, I will just say, to save me from reading that all over again, there is, because we're having a second meeting again, that statement goes for both meetings. So with that, I'll turn it over to General Manager Bejan.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask our senior planner, Mathieu Daou, to speak. He's actually the planner on both of the files that will be presented this evening. The first application, zoning bylaw amendment application, is on behalf of Grandview Equestrian Farms, Inc., and Mathieu will present the planning context for this application.
Perfect, thank you. The slides are up, perfect. So good evening, Chair, Council, and members of the public with us tonight. My name is Mathieu Daou. I'm a senior planner at the town, and I'm here tonight to provide a brief presentation on the zoning bylaw amendment application at 17743 McCowan Road. Next slide, please. So the subject lands are located in a rural area east of McCowan Road and north of Davis Drive. The total lot area is approximately 11 hectares or 27 acres, with an area subject of this application at approximately 2.5 hectares or 6.17 acres. The property is home to an agricultural operation, specifically an equestrian use, with an existing barn. Next slide, please. The applicant is proposing to retrofit an existing barn to facilitate fitness classes and is proposing a parking area which includes 16 parking spaces. Next slide, please. So the subject lands are designated as Oak Ridges Moraine Natural Core Area in the 2010 East Gwillimbury Official Plan. The official plan lists a number of permitted uses, including agricultural uses, which also include on-farm diversified uses. For those not familiar with on-farm diversified uses, they are outlined in the provincial policy statement, essentially allowing farmers to diversify their agricultural lands with an additional business on their farm, subject to 5 criteria outlined in the PPS. These uses can be related or not to agricultural. Some examples I've worked with in a previous role is woodworking shop, welding shops, agritourism operations, and even some wedding venues. Next slide, please. The lands are currently zoned Oak Ridges Moraine Core and Oak Ridges Moraine Countryside within the town's zoning bylaw. The area subject of this amendment is zoned ORMC, which permits existing agricultural uses, buildings, and structures. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, the applicant is proposing to rezone 2.5 hectares or 6.17 acres of the ORMC zoned land to site-specific ORMC zone. The exception zone would permit all uses permitted in the ORMC zone. In a brief correspondence, I'll direct your eyes to the screen here. So the commercial fitness facility, I spoke briefly with the applicant's agent today, and that's since been amended, to a health and training facility as an on-farm diversified use, evidently. Next slide, please. So the applicant is, as mentioned, also proposing a number of site-specific zone provisions. The zone provisions are as follows. The one first parking requirement, I'll direct your eyes to that, is no longer required after speaking with the applicant again today. So disregard that item. However, a loading space, which is not required to abut the building for which loading space is provided, loading space permitted in the front yard, and recognizing the existing lot area of the property. Next slide, please. So the submitted zoning bylaw amendment application has been circulated and is currently under review by internal departments and external agencies. The following matters have been identified and will be addressed as a future recommendation report. Some of the items to be addressed: consistency and conformity with provincial, regional, and local planning policies, the appropriateness and compatibility of the proposed development, review of any other zoning provision deficiencies, specifically the proposed size of the rezoned lands. And to note, should this application be approved at a future council meeting, through discussions with building staff, there's a very significant upgrades which will be required to the barn to bring it to assembly standards. Next slide, please. So at the time of preparing this presentation, planning staff have received comments from one resident related to the proposed zoning bylaw amendments. The comments were related to noise in terms of, i.e. loud music during class times, compatibility of the use within the rural context, and the proposed use operating outside of the existing barn on the remaining grounds of the subject lands. As of this afternoon, I've now received 47 correspondence from the public, that being approximately 43 letters of support and 4 letters of opposition. So I've made an attempt to summarize some of these letters here. So I've tried to cover some major themes here, so apologies if I didn't get everyone's comments. So I've summarized the opposition letters with the following themes, some being conformity to the official plan, preservation of the rural area, Numerous gyms options already available, traffic, precedent for the future, noise, and size of the proposed rezoning and class sizes. I've summarized letters of support with the following themes being health benefits of the proposed services, that being physical, social, and mental health, short commute times to the proposed location, lack of gym facilities in the area, preservation of a barn, environmental benefits, and supporting local farming community. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, staff will continue to undertake a technical review of the subject application, including discussions from today's public planning presentation. A comprehensive report with recommendations for the ZBA will be presented at a future council presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That takes us to a presentation from the applicant and their agent. If you'd like to step forward.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you, Acting Mayor Jones and Council. Excuse me. My name is Michael Larkin. I'm the agent for Grandview Equestrian Farms from Larkin Land Use Planners Consultants. First slide, please. So a lot of this has been touched on through Matt's presentation, but I will just try to go over some of the highlights without getting too redundant. The subject lands are located on McCowan Road, north of Davis Drive. Currently, there's an existing barn on the property, which is underutilized for many years. The property is actually part of a larger land holding comprising a total of 81.8 hectares, or from the old school people like me, 200 acres, known as Grandview Equestrian Farm. They belong to the Grandview Equestrian Farm and is joined by several other horse farm and equestrian centers in the immediate area. Slide, please. So, Mr. Mayor, the proposal is to modify the current zoning permissions, as you've heard, applicable to a small portion of the property to permit a training and rehabilitation classes within the existing barn. I should mention that on the larger land holdings, there are a number of different structures, a number of different larger barns. This particular barn has not been utilized for a number of years. And originally, too, there was a house that was just in front of the barn, which is no longer there. So it was a discrete property at one point. It's no longer that. It's part of the larger holdings. The proposal is for an on-farm diversified use, which you heard explained, and that's specifically for a health and strength training facility. And the intent is to provide training and rehabilitation classes to members of the equestrian or agricultural community and the greater Mount Albert and East Gwillimbury farming community itself. The total proposed area of the property for the application originally was 2.5 hectares. That's since been modified through discussions with my client and also with the town to 1 hectare. I'll explain the difference there. The reason for that is on-farm diversified uses can go up to a certain percentage of the total use, but it should be kept within about 1 hectare. The difference between what the application was, and I'll show you on another slide, the 1 hectare, is that we're only looking to rezone that portion of the property that's going to be used for the on-farm diversified use. So that arguably would be the barn itself, the area immediately surrounding the barn, and the parking lot. Next slide, please. So this is a preliminary site plan concept that we submitted with the application. The features here is that the barn itself, or the on-farm diversified use, will be contained primarily within the barn, and there'll be the restoration of the heritage aspects of the barn with some minor renovations to add soundproofing, insulation, and so on. So any concerns about noise that may have been raised before when there were some classes running there should be taken care of by insulating the barn itself and putting soundproofing in there so it'll be contained within. Important to note that the existing footprint of the barn will remain the same. There's no addition involved. The driveway from the entrance to the property to the parking lot, we're proposing to shift it a few meters either north or south. We have to work that out with staff on the site plan. And the intent is to preserve the existing trees along the driveway itself and make it worthy for emergency vehicles such as a fire truck, for example. So we have to widen the driveway very slightly, but it was thought it's best to move the driveway itself a little bit. The parking area will be in the area that there is an existing parking area now, and that's located on the north side of the building. And there'll be a slight expansion to that to accommodate 16 parking spaces. Now, the plan shows, if you can see it up close, we've delineated what those parking spaces are, but the intent is, and we'll be working with staff through this, not to actually pave the parking area, so we wouldn't actually have painted lines. We're just showing it on the plan to show that it can accommodate that number of vehicles. And then the existing driveway will be extended slightly beyond the parking area along the west side of the building towards the south, and that's where the loading spaces will be provided. And also, you'll see on the plan there's a turning space there for emergency vehicle. So there has been a lot of work done in preparing the design of the concept plan, and we anticipate that subject to council's decision on the application, the zoning application, that there wouldn't be any significant modifications to the site plan itself when that is submitted to the town. So it should be something very, very similar to this, if not pretty much exact. Next slide. So we've identified the current applications. There are two required to implement this use. The first is the zoning bylaw, which is before you tonight. And then the second application, subject to the zoning being approved, would be an application for site plan approval. The proposal right before you is to amend the town's bylaw by adding the proposed on-farm diversified use and defining it as a health and strength training facility to the subject property on the portion I've identified on the plan. And this will be achieved through the implementation of a site-specific zoning standards per the potential expansion number, whatever it would be to assign to it. And then, as I said, it will be implemented through the site plan approval. I should note that originally, through consultations with the town, it was thought that what my client was looking for was a commercial type use. And that was a bit problematic when we looked at it because it really didn't meet what they were actually intending to do. And it wasn't, that designation was actually inappropriate. So that's why we've reworked the application to say, no, it's not a commercial use. It's an on-farm diversified use, and that falls within the on-farm diversified use categorization. Next slide, please. So as mentioned in the previous presentation, the property is within the natural core area of the ORMC. Permitted uses with respect to natural core areas allow on-farm diversified uses, subject to certain criteria in section 11.4, which we've stated on the slide. And so the on-farm diversified uses must relate to agricultural uses described in the legislation and are only permitted in prime agricultural areas in the natural core areas, which this is. As land use planning in Ontario follows a top-down hierarchy approach, the proposal complies and conforms and is consistent, depending on the legislation, with the land use policy in the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Plan, York Region's official plan, and the town's official plan, both the current plan and the one that was adopted relatively recently and is pending approval at York Region. Next slide. In our planning justification report, originally we didn't touch on the on-farm diversified uses in any great detail. But again, through consultation with staff, we went back and we've updated our planning justification report and completed a complete appendix that specifically talks about on-farm diversified uses. And you see here the slide, the types of uses that are contemplated by OMAFRA in their publications and the province. The key thing here is that the use has to be secondary to the principal agricultural use of the property and limited in area, hence the 1 hectare. The uses include, but the key thing here is are not limited to home occupation, home industries, agritourism uses, and uses that produce value-added agricultural products. But again, it doesn't have to be specifically limited to it, and the previous presentation touched on that. Next slide, please. So the health and training facility is intended to be a place where a holistic approach, care approach to the physical, mental, and strength training is provided. This will provide personalized service for individuals and small groups that need targeted training, exercise, physiotherapy sessions to keep their physical and mental well-being. It also provides a venue to assist town residents and local area farm owners and workers, equestrian riders, trainers, and their families to recover from injuries through the practice of different types of exercise and rehabilitation sessions. And that can be injuries that are not only related to equestrian activities, but also general farming injuries that may happen as well. The proposed use in supporting is complementary to the main agricultural use, as you've heard, which is a horse farm, and it provides the services to support the rural community. The slide indicates the PPS criteria. I won't go through them all. You can see them there. They're covered at length in our PJR. The bottom line is that we believe we meet all the 5 criteria so that this use would qualify as an on-farm diversified use. So last slide, please. So in conclusion then, we believe the proposal promotes and enhances the viability of the rural economy by fostering training and their rehabilitation classes to ensure the equestrian and farming community can do their job every day. It preserves and restores the rural heritage and character by making use of an underutilized barn that has been left standing for over 100 years. It'll retain its overall look. I believe, is going to be painted. But the barn, for all intents and purposes, is the structure that's there today. There'll be interior renovations to insulate it better and provide soundproofing. It also promotes natural heritage preservation and enhancement of the rural character in the Oak Ridges Moraine. It promotes and supports and maintenance of tree protection, preservation, and planting. Minimal trees will be affected in a driveway adjustment. We have done an arborist report. There are some that should be replaced, and they will be through the site plan process. It promotes and supports the agricultural industry and associated activities by enhancing local job creation, further contributing to the rural economy of the town. We believe it demonstrates appropriate measures taken for the nearest sensitive receptors. This was confirmed through a noise study that was done in response to some comments that were received early on in the process. To ensure that, in fact, noise was not going to be an issue. And the consultant found that it fell well within the acceptable levels, as is at that time, which was the uninsulated barn. And then finally, it complies with the minimum distance separation formula that OMAFRA applies to any type of uses with agricultural. So we believe it represents appropriate zoning for the property, supports the surrounding agricultural community, as I said, and the residents of the town of East Gwillimbury, and represents good land use planning for the area. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, and members of the public.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, folks, so that takes us to public comments now, and I just have some procedural comments regarding public decorum. So to be respectful of everyone here tonight and to maintain a positive environment, I ask all meeting participants to refrain from engaging in discourteous and inappropriate behavior that would negatively affect the council deliberations. This includes verbal outbursts, clapping, or any other activity that would disrupt tonight's meeting. So to our speakers, if you could please provide your name and address to the clerks by filling out the form provided, as I mentioned earlier. Looks like we're going to have a few speakers tonight here this evening, so I'm just going to ask everyone to keep their comments to the 5 minutes. Additionally, as this portion of the meeting is a statutory public meeting, I remind all speakers that their comments shared this evening must be in reference to this application. On behalf of council, I thank those who are attending tonight's meeting and for the interest of the town's business. So as council members, we are elected to represent our community, and we encourage the positive and respectful dialogue. Look forward to tonight's deputation. So There are some folks that have already registered with the clerk. So Madam Clerk, I'll defer to you on the first few speakers here.
Through you, Mr. Chair, for this particular statutory public planning application, we only have one registered speaker, and that is John Pettijan.
Mr. Pettijan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Council, and we wish Mayor Haxon a speedy recovery soon. In this deposition, I would like to refer to the Corporation of the Town of East Gwillimbury as EG. I recently moved to this wonderful property on McCowan Road in East Gwillimbury, part of the Oak Ridge Moraine. I moved here because of the rural setting, safe neighborhoods, quiet surroundings, but most of all, the openness of the land. Here in EG, people can live, they can work, they can attend schools, they can enjoy recreational venues. But what stands out everywhere you turn to is farmland, rich soil that supplies local people with food, livestock that fills refrigerators and freezers for barbecue season, grazing horses and cattle that add to the scenic landscape that makes this a wonderful community. Communities have set sectors protected by law, such as commercial zoning, residential zoning, industrial zoning, to mention a few. Each category of zoning provides services such as policing, sewage, transportation, parks, and conveniences like sidewalks, shopping, streetlights, and much more, bringing prosperity, greater education, and more opportunities for people. These zones have also been created to protect our rural, agricultural, and recreational lands, to ensure EG maintains its heritage. I heard that this afternoon many times in heritage parks. We have many wonderful businesses in EG, such as Grandview Equestrian Farms, who purchased the property at 17743 McCowan Road approximately 2 years ago, adding to a sizable neighborhood property, part of the Oak Ridge Moraine. As the previous speaker, about 200 acres. It brings me to why I'm here. I noticed on the property 17743 applying for rezoning of OMC to OMC-XX. Nowhere does it describe the class reference of what XX refers to as what additional services, allowances, or grants for rezoning. The applicant is requesting to transform an old barn into a fitness training facility. Here are my concerns, in my opinion. The parcel of land, 27.3 acres, was purchased in 2022, which 6.2 acres of this land is being requested for rezoning. This land was purchased with the knowledge of it being situated on Oak Ridge Moraine land.
You have about a minute left, Mr. Pettijan.
And properties are located adjacent, his properties are located adjacent to it. The applicant has submitted certificates of approval, inspections at his expense. In less than 2 years, the applicant has requested for a rezoning. The applicant owns a sizable portion of property adjacent and around 17743, from the railroad tracks to Davis Drive, McCowan Road, and a nearby residential estate subdivision. Acquiring the property makes good business sense from a corporation viewpoint. Why a planning fitness, training fitness situated further away from his existing business? Why, where there's no stables or no facilities, a standalone building? Why? Is this a short-term venture or a cloak only to be upgraded sometime down the future? Has council received a site plan, business plan, environmental reviews, a noise study level? Does council know what their final plan encompasses?
You should look to wrap it up, sir.
Why haven't Other equestrian farms in the nearby area apply for rezoning as well for their businesses. But to renovate, retrofit an old barn to meet bylaw codes, regulations for water, sewage, heating, parking, restrooms, windows, lighting, and more, not to mention all the approval certification costs for operational costs, for a small number of participants. I'm not an accountant. It doesn't add up. It doesn't seem to add up financially. If this is a business related to their existing equestrian farm, there should be no rezoning needed. But if it's a new business not related to the equestrian farm, then it should be placed in a commercial zone where it belongs. There are so many locations in EG that will accommodate this type of business. Why take away the beauty of rolling hills, acres with beautiful horses surrounding the forests? If council moves forward with this rezoning, it shows me that the people living in rural areas are vulnerable to further rezoning changes. This leads me to wonder if people in the rural areas should look to rezoning their own properties.
Mr. Pettijohn,
I'm just closing up.
Perfect.
Thank you,
Great.
Chairman.
Thank you.
It is in my opinion that this rezoning request does not pass, as it fails to meet the importance of protecting the neighborhood properties, the environment, and the rural living, but most of all, the Oak Ridge Moraine. I thank you, and I'd like to ask one more thing, that the town planner update his numbers, because I think there's more than 4 people here that were opposed to it. And I'd like to thank council and the chairman for allowing me to speak, and I'll take questions if there are any.
Great, thank you, sir. We'll actually do questions at the end after everybody's had a chance to speak, and then we'll go around the table and be able to ask. So,
Thank you.
thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, are we outside of the registered?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we don't currently have anyone else who's pre-registered. However, if there are any members of the public that would wish to speak on this application, typically they can come to the lectern and fill out the form.
Great. So if we can get a bit of a line, if you go to the back, you can register, get your name and address, and as folks are registering there, then we can start coming down. I will remind everybody that, again, respectful of everybody's time, 5 minutes. And so can start with the first person. Come on down. You're already registered. Yeah. Yeah. And if you could please state your name and your address for us, and then you got your 5 minutes.
Absolutely. So Dan Banks, 5 Cleverton Boulevard, Mount Albert. Councilors, Mr. Chair, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak on the matter as a longtime resident of Mount Albert. I'm here to provide my support for the proposed zoning change with many others in our community. If you just want to raise your hand. So I'm here representing them with a few short words. I would like to bring to your attention numerous potential benefits that an on-farm diversified fitness facility could bring to our community. It promotes health and wellness. A local fitness facility provides a convenient space for residents to engage in physical activity, foster a healthier lifestyle, and contribute to the general well-being of our community. The accessibility of such a facility addresses the challenges faced by working individuals, parents, and youth who find it difficult to travel out of town for fitness activities. As a local first responder who works shift work, I would most definitely make use of a local fitness facility offering non-traditional training and rehabilitation programming. Enhancing the community. Fitness facilities often serve as a hub for social interaction and shared fitness goals, fostering a sense of community and uniting individuals that would otherwise not share common interests. An on-farm facility would enable community members to connect with local business owners and farmers, promoting local shopping and enhancing community cohesion. Impacting our local economy. The establishment of a fitness facility carries positive economic implications, creating job opportunities for local use and other town members, and providing attractive more residents to the businesses of the area. As a tax-contributing citizen of East Gwillimbury, I am highly in favor of building additional amenities within our municipality. A few years ago, I invested in the opportunity to open a fitness facility in Mount Albert myself, but came to the conclusion that there was no commercial space available that would be suitable for a fitness facility. I was very excited to learn that the rezoning of the barn at 17743 McCowan Road, it may now be possible to have that type of facility nearby. Community philanthropy. The proponents of the proposal on the farm facility already have a commendable track record on philanthropic activities with our community. They have been involved in the local Mount Albert Sports Day sponsorship of local families through neighborhood network holiday program and numerous other charitable contributions, including something that's near to me is Special Olympics Ontario. The visual appeal of a proposed location. The proposed fitness facility at 17743 McCowan Road is set to preserve and restore the character of an existing Century barn, adding to the aesthetic appeal of the area and preventing the degeneration of the existing barn. Impact to the Oak Ridges moraine. Rigorous environmental studies have been conducted to ensure that the utilization of the existing barn as a fitness facility will not harm the Oak Ridges moraine. On the contrary, it will provide a unique opportunity for the community to enjoy the moraine while promoting mental and physical well-being. Additionally, having a fitness facility nearby will minimize travel distance and reduce carbon emissions. Noise, traffic, and on McCowan. Acknowledging potential concerns about noise and increased traffic, I am confident there will be minimal additional traffic along McCowan Road due to the small nature of the barn. It is only possible to accommodate small groups of attendees at the facility at any given time, ensuring that there will be minimal additional traffic. I understand the Town Council's careful consideration of the impact of zoning changes to the community, and I trust that all the necessary precautions will be taken to address the potential concerns. In my view, the numerous benefits of having a fitness facility in our neighborhood far outweigh the potential drawbacks. I strongly urge the Town Council to approve the zoning change request and permit the establishment of a proposed fitness facility. I appreciate your time, consideration on this matter, and I look forward to witnessing our community thrive in addition of this valuable amenity. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Just under 5 minutes. There you go, thank you. All right, the next speaker. If you want to come forward, we don't bite. Come forward, state your name, your address, and love to hear what you have to say.
Hello, my name is Reagan Bentley. I live in Mount Albert. I just actually moved a year ago with my stepdad, with my mom. And I am hoping in favor that this will work out for the two clients over there. They have been very kind to me ever since October area. I'm gonna say they've encouraged me to be better mentally and also physically. I've been working on training for the CrossFit Open actually. And honestly, the noise complaints, we can fix that as it was suggested with the insulation and the noise canceling kind of walls. I'm so sorry. Autism.
You got lots of time. Take a breath.
And with the
You're
sensor,
good.
and I have sensory issues, so with this, it will help me out, especially with working out. I've been looking for a place, especially because I'm not really structured and motivated, but they have motivated me ever since I joined with them. And honestly, I am in favor that the law should, that the zoning should be passed because it has helped me, especially even with my confidence and also just being able to work out without being judged, especially for my coach, Andreas. Sorry to call you out there, bud. So I am in favor of this, and I really hope that this does get passed.
Thank you for coming tonight. All right, the next speaker, your name into the mic, your address, and you got 5 minutes.
Hi there, my name is Denise Sentai. I'm a resident of Mount Albert on Main Price. I am a mother. I have 2 kids, and my second son was born during the pandemic in 2020. It was hard, it was isolating, it was scary. I'm also a special education teacher in York Region. My job is very physically demanding. It takes a lot. Being a mother takes a lot. I was driving into Newmarket for 30 minutes and trying to balance children and trying to fit in rehab. I have large babies. The rehab takes a long time after birth. And I was driving all the way to Newmarket, missing my children, trying to get home, trying to manage my job. And then I found Birch Benders. And after years of isolation from the pandemic, I have found people who are kind and caring and compassionate in this community. It matters. What they're doing here, it matters. It's rehab, and it's fixing me physically and mentally, but it's bringing back this place together. And what they're doing here, it is important. And I know there's so many technicalities, and it is very, very intense. But what they are doing here, it matters to me and to so many other people here. This place is not just fitness, it's not just strength training, it's community. And after the last 4 years that we have had, we need community, we need hope, we need to come back together, and we need to heal. Thank you for your time, I really appreciate it.
Next speaker, come on forward. Name and address. You got 5 minutes. Hello, hello.
My name is Allison. My address is East Gwillimbury, to keep it short. This is my husband, Ryan, and my daughter, Marley, and my little one is at the door with our friend. No babysitters tonight. 2 years ago, we purchased our dream farm 10 minutes up the road from Birchbender, and it's 3 minutes from the house that I grew up in, where my parents still live today. I remember coming here to Town Hall to watch the fireworks as a kid, biking around this neighborhood where my cousins lived and on the gravel road that I grew up in. This area is extremely near and dear to my heart, as it's not only where I was raised, but it's where I'm raising my own family as well. The preservation of the Oak Ridges Moraine is an extremely important matter to me, which is one of the main reasons that we decided to move back to this area, to become active members of this community that I love so much, and also to contribute to the sustainability of the land through regenerative farming practices. We believe that the repurposed barn being used to support the health and wellness of this community is another amazing and really unique way to contribute to the preservation of this. I'd also like to share a little bit more about our personal story with you, as I think it might help you understand why and how Birchbender is so important to us. 4.5 years ago, my little one, Emmy Lou, was born, and she was born with cerebral palsy. To this day, she still requires full-time support, including being carried. Fast forward 2 years, and we bought the farm, our dream farm. It's also the farm I drove past on my school bus route every day as a kid, and it's now the place I get to call home. Here we have 3 horses, enjoyed by both of our girls, but therapeutically with my little one. They're also the center of my business, which is focused on developing our sense of connection with nature and also community building. We have chickens and dogs and big plans to expand. Each year we're adding in new crops. So far this has included garlic, strawberries, and raspberries, as well as sweet potatoes. In order to keep this going financially, Ryan also works as an RMT, specializing in rehabilitation of injuries. After our first year here, the combination of heavy workload and carrying my daughter for long periods daily led to my body kind of breaking down. I was in excruciating pain, mostly in my lower back, which was making it nearly impossible to take care of my half of the workload, including taking care of my daughter. As you can imagine, this led to some pretty serious anxiety and some mental stress, a lot of mental stress. Taking my husband's lead and push, he had already begun his journey with Birchbender. I started to go to 2 classes a week. This was last May. In less than a year of attending and following the instruction and guidance of the remarkable coaches here, I am now completely free of pain. I can perform my daily farm chores and meet my daughter's needs with ease. My husband, who has suffered multiple spine injuries, including a near fatal and extremely damaging spine infection in 2020, just after the pandemic, has also managed to heal and come to a place of performing his load of the tasks, but also his RMT work, something he was told he'd never be able to do again. I say this with sincerity, that Birchbender has truly changed our life and has made our dream of farming possible. On top of this, my family has made many, many beautiful connections through this incredibly strong community. My children are welcomed into an environment where they are not only encouraged to discover their own strength, but also to watch their parents doing the same. This is a gift to any child, but even more so to one with a disability. It's a community we are so proud to be a part of, one of inclusion, remarkable charity work, passion, and positivity, with strength, health, and kindness at its center. I'd like to finish by saying that discovering Birchbender upon moving here to where we live was one of the most pleasant surprises, because being just 10 minutes from our home instead of 20 to 30 minutes to other facilities has made it possible for our family to have access to these classes. With our full-on lifestyle of farming and also managing other jobs, we wouldn't be able to attend classes if not for the short commute, not to mention that this shorter commute has an impact on our environment, less drive time, less vehicle emissions. Driving time aside, supporting local economy, something the town has been very much encouraging, and community building are such important values to us. Attending a family-run local business in the place that we're paying our taxes and planting our roots, both literally and metaphorically, is something that we are so incredibly grateful for, and I truly, truly hope that we will be able to continue with all of this. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your time.
I'm next in line to speak, so I'll
Go
just
ahead,
follow
please,
that
sir.
up. Thank you. I agree with everything she said. Birch Bender's been a phenomenal gift to us and our family, and to be able to do the work that is required. And our farm is regenerative. Like, we put a lot of energy into diversifying crops, improving the soil, and trying to make things better in that way so that people can have healthier food, and so that we can increase the benefits to our natural environment instead of, more harm. Also, being in healthcare myself, I understand how absolutely critical it is to have the facilities that promote wellness and allow people to get past their injuries and build strength so that they can continue to do what they do in their old age, especially in agriculture. It's crucial. And Birch Bender has really provided an avenue for people to do that, including myself. I'd also like to read a letter that my dad sent. He's not able to be here tonight. And you guys should have this letter. He sent it today. Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce Matthew. What's your last name? Are you here, Matthew?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Dow?
Yeah.
Okay. Dear Mr. Dow, I'm writing in support of the application for rezoning for on-farm diversified use at 17743 McCowan Road for a fitness facility / classes within an existing barn. I'm the father of a young garlic farmer who just started out and struggling to find labor he can afford to have work on his farm in East Gwillimbury. As such, I provide manual labor to help out on the farm as I am needed. If I was not able to help my son, it would negatively impact the economic viability of his agricultural operation. As I am an older person, my ability to continue to do this safely is dependent on my ability to maintain my general fitness, particularly in regard to protecting my back and balance. This is especially challenging during the winter months. The only location I have found locally that works for me is a classes offered at 17743 McCowan Road. The distance is short enough to allow me to overcome my reluctance to go out into the cold to the gym, plus the trainers are very responsive to the specific needs I have to be able to help my son on the farm. I have yet to find an alternative facility within a practical distance anywhere. Without this local facility, I strongly doubt I would do any physical activity during the winter other than an occasional walk as the weather permits. He also suffers from arthritis and some other health conditions, so having the support really helps. As farm labor is increasingly difficult and expensive to find, I believe this facility should be considered as an essential component to support the ongoing viability of agriculture in the local community, and I respectfully urge the township to approve their application. Sincerely, Red Brown. And he's located in Mount Albert, 487 Samuel Harper Court. He's not here to fill out the form, but that's another person, another address. You guys should have that letter on file as well. And the other thing that I wanted to mention too is a whole concern brought up about traffic. The barn where the proposed rezoning is located, and where the other residents that may have concerns are also located, is a high traffic area already. And of course, we don't want more cars coming through anywhere. Nobody likes that. But we already have the dog park, which is an amazing dog park. And as you can see on the weekend, there's cars that are down the road, they're outside the parking lot. It's overflowing. We have this population of people that want to enjoy the great outdoors and be physically active. Having a gym, not only just a gym, but a repurposed barn, a heritage building, allowing people to take care of themselves. We all know that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And if you have a facility that enables people to take care of themselves in the short term, fulfilling their immediate needs for community, for the endorphin rush that you get when you're having a bad day and you just want to hit the gym, the energy to do daily tasks, but it's the long term too. And our bodies are breaking down over time, you know, as you get older, you have muscle loss and everything else.
You got about
And-
1 minute left.
Okay, thank you. I won't be much longer. And so for all these reasons, it makes sense to support and enable people to take care of themselves. And with the right coaching and the right facilities, that's what it takes, and that's what we need to see in East Gwillimbury. Thank you for your time.
Welcome.
I'm Elijah Moore, and I live in EG. I just want to say it would be very hard for my mom to help take care of me and my brothers. And especially with my my learning disability, which really really is hard, especially on writing and all that. I'd also like to say there should only be with the traffic problem going to the Birch Benders. There should only be at least 16 cars going there where it is right now, because there is only 16 parking spaces. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming forward. Another speaker. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Acting Mayor, councillors. I live at 17781 McCowan Road. I'm the direct neighbor to the individual. I'm a big gym person myself as well. I drive into Newmarket, 8 kilometers away. I'm at a gym to get my physical activity. All right. I'm not saying it's not a good idea, but we've just heard that it's already happening, and the members of the gym are loving it. So why are we moving it? Why are we moving it into beside the neighbors? If it's already working, let's let it work, right? There's members here that say they're going to the gym, they're getting healthy, and they're getting good support, and that's awesome. And if that's working, let's just leave it where it is. The land to be rezoned, the 2.5 hectares, and I understand now it's down to a hectare, is that going to allow outdoor classes? If you renovate the barn and you bring it up to Ontario Building Code, we're probably not going to hear anything within that square footage of that barn. But as soon as it goes outside the barn, then myself and my neighbors all hear it. It's not that I'm opposed to listening to it, but it could be constantly every hour on the hour. We're talking about a parking lot now with 16 cars. That's the potential of a class of 16 people or more every hour on the hour. If it's working where he's doing it now, let's just continue it there. And then we don't have to rezone Oak Ridge Moraine. We can protect our land. We don't have to renovate a history barn, that if you renovate it, it's not a historical barn anymore. It's a renovated building. That's pretty much all I got to say. Just
Thank you very much
keep
for
it in
coming
mind for
forward.
the neighbors, please.
Thank you. Anybody else here tonight that would like to speak?
Hi. I don't have much to say, but I'm a local tree farmer, so I know that the fitness is a huge portion. Especially farming is a dying breed. People aren't as active anymore, so a community like this, to have people around, people to go to. If anything has taught us in the last 4 years, that our health is something to not mess around with. Yes, the guy before me said you can drive 8 minutes to Newmarket. I did it. It sucked. There's no social aspect there. You have to go out and talk to people individually. To have a class atmosphere is something that you can't get in an LA Fitness, Good Life. So to have that hands-on coaching, community, I don't know. I just don't see the reason why this would not get passed. And we need our health and our strength. So to keep something around like this is good. It's not going to affect the land. I understand how building permits go. I've done it in the past. It's a hassle. The building's already there. There's no change. Yes, they're moving the driveway over. I'm a tree farmer. If I need to donate some trees, so be it. I'll give them trees. It's just we're reusing a building that's there. If you go to a commercial space, everybody's got to drive into the town, and yes, that dog park is slammed, and people are so happy to be outside to communicate and socialize. So that's just another reason why this should be passed. Yeah, that's all I got to say, but hopefully you guys can support some local farmers. I just want to be healthy and keep their mental health good, so thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for coming tonight. Next speaker.
Hi, my name's Julie Jonas. I live at 17781 McCowan Road. My husband was the one who just spoke a couple people ago. I just wanted to reiterate a couple other points and maybe just draw emphasis to some other pieces as well. Again, just like he said, we are not opposed to having people have a place that they can work out and be healthy. Both of us are very much engaged in these types of activities as well. But having this location in an agricultural area that is immediately next door to your neighbors who have bought the land primarily to enjoy the space, the quiet, is a big concern. A lot of the people that have spoken here today, who I believe, based on the addresses, live in Mount Albert. They do not live right next door to the proposed gym. And so they may not have an idea of how loud it can be. And when it was not insulated, which I understand would add a significant benefit to the sound reduction, it is extremely, extremely loud. We can hear it inside our house with the windows closed as the classes were going on. I mean, if you're not aware of CrossFit facilities, they have extremely loud pumping music, again, at the early and late hours in the classes as well. There's an interval timer that beeps on a very regular basis, which we could also hear from inside our house. And I just want people to recognize the impact that this has. I'm not so much worried about the traffic. I realize it's not a lot of people coming in and out, but I'm more so worried about the regularity of the classes and the noise particularly. I also want to speak to the size of the rezoning. Again, it doesn't, in my opinion, need to be the full 2.5 hectares or even the 1 hectare. If it is contained within the original barn, fantastic. However, there were a lot of outdoor classes. There were a lot of children's classes where they were yelling and screaming, and I love children, like, don't get me wrong, but you don't want that every single hour, you know, through the day when the classes are being held. I do have the permission of 2 other neighbors that live down the street. I can get those addresses for you later if you'd like, who are also against this for very similar reasons. One of them brought up the fact that her house backs onto the large parcel of land that is on the west side of McCowan. And it's, I think, approximately 200 acres, and it's been for sale for several years. It is our understanding that there have been development requests for this land to put in houses, and that these multiple requests have gone to council and have been denied because it is Oak Ridge's moraine, and we don't want to impact that. So I just want you to keep that in mind as well when you're thinking about why those changes have been held in place and why we're thinking about changing them now. Last thing, the 8-kilometer distance from Birchbender to the Newmarket CrossFit facilities is, you know, maybe an 8-minute drive. So for those that are saying it's an extra 10, 15 minutes, it's not. Be aware that almost all, if not, or excuse me, a lot of them, if not all, CrossFit facilities are located in industrial areas. There's reason for this, the noise, et cetera, the multiple classes. So in my opinion, it does not belong in an agricultural setting, particularly ones that are very close to neighbors, where in a large property like this, they can keep their facility running in the existing place or even set back in one of their other barns that is not so close to their neighbors. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public would like to speak? there's no other comments, what we'll do is we'll open it up to council for comments. I'm happy to go around the table if somebody wants to start it off. Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor, and thank you to all the folks that showed up today. And it's nice to see the chamber full. It means the public is engaged, and we don't always get that. We had 30% turnout a couple of years ago for our election, so it's nice to see people stepping up. If I could maybe call up Mr. Larkin to the lectern. I just had a few questions to help me understand a little better. Would you know off the top of your head, how old is this building that we're talking about?
I believe one of the deputants mentioned it. It's around 100 years, if not
Okay,
plus
so
or minus. Old.
It's 100 years old, so knowing Barnes as I do, I can imagine there's going to be a fair bit of upgrades that need to be made to bring it up to code to keep everyone, certainly on our staff, happy. Am I wrong on that? I'm looking at staff here.
Respectfully, I'll give staff stink eye too. No, the barn is in wonderful shape structurally.
Okay.
There will be some renovations inside, as I said, to insulate it, and it has to meet building code. But it's a wide open space inside that's not obstructed, so it's fairly easy to do. And then we're working with staff to decide what type of washroom facility should be there. My clients would like to do an environmental one that's burns the
Incinerator.
Incinerator, yeah.
Yeah.
Staff have so far not supported that, but again, that's preliminary discussions. That's more of a site plan matter. But even if they have to do a small septic bed, there was an existing septic bed. There was a house there originally, so a well and a septic bed. So certainly on the servicing side of it, there's very minimal services that have to go in, and we're hoping that we can convince staff on the incinerator.
Okay.
Strap.
I would ask, I'm looking at you, Ms. Bejan, do we have our CBO, our Chief Building Officer isn't here today, is he?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, he's not, but we have discussed this application, and I think in fairness to the applicant, it's important to understand that aside from, what it sounds like the merits of the proposal are, that this would be classified as an assembly to use under the building code, which is one of the strictest codes that we adhere to in terms of fire suppression, accessibility, and it's not a small or insignificantly expensive undertaking to bring it up to code for such a use.
Okay. I'll go, if I may, Mr. Acting Mayor, through you to Mr. Larkin again. I think we heard some of the comments, and I've talked to some of the neighbors who aren't enamored with this idea, and they've made some comments that are not, I think, unreasonable, and they've been very reasonable talking to me that they don't want to be too obstructionist, but noise, and the classes outside. What can you tell me about the steps that will be taken to properly insulate this so that we can deal with at least deal with the noise complaint? Can you elaborate on that, Mr. Larkin?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll try. Not being an architect, I do know that it's possible to get a fairly good level of sound reduction through insulation and so on, and using proper techniques for sound reduction. There was a noise study done that measured the noise from the barn and so on to the property line, to the neighbor's property line. Actually, they didn't go onto their property, and it met MOE guidelines. In fact, it was less than the cap on the MOE guideline. Now, I can't speak. I haven't been inside the house, of course, when activities have been happening, so I can't speak to that personally. But the noise has been addressed or looked at and addressed. The level of activity that's going to happen on the site, yes, there are 16 spaces, parking spaces. That number really is to accommodate people arriving and departing so that you have crossover. It doesn't mean that you're going to have 16 carloads of people in the classes. I think the classes are 8 to 10 or 12 people at maximum. There will be some activities outside. The back of the barn, which is on the east side, away from the surrounding house, is an ideal spot for them to do their outdoor activities. I did talk to my client earlier today, and I understand that on a couple of occasions they've had kids come and they've had a soccer game out in the front field. And of course, kids will be a bit noisy when they're having fun, but that's not a regular occurrence, just as my understanding. So, you know, just as you could have a birthday party there and it'll be noisy for the short period of time that the party's on. So I'm not trying to diminish the concerns about noise, but I think measures have been taken, and that's certainly something that my client will work with staff on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, I would, my last comment would be to both our staff and to the applicant that you've heard some of the feedback here tonight.
Absolutely.
I think, you know, sitting on this side of the table, I always think that there's a compromise that could be made, and, you know, we can find that win-win situation. I've been told I'm a naive optimist too, but I throw it back into both your laps to say, okay, you've heard the concerns, you've heard the support as well. What can you do to allay everyone's fear that this is going to be, you know, an enjoyable experience and not a nightmare? So I throw that back to you to resolve and come back to us with your resolution.
We'll certainly do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Larkin. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Acting Mayor.
Thank you. Any other members? Councillor Roy DiClemente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to continue to better understand the differences between what our staff have said, which is that there are very significant renovations, and what the applicant's representative said, which was that there would be appropriate minor renovations. So through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, I've heard assembly use too. Can you give me some examples of the retrofits that would be required in order to make this building safe for assembly? Does it need to be sprinklered, for example?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, and apologies as I'm not a building official, but my understanding is that for assembly use, fire suppression, sprinklers, you know, fire blocks, appropriate doors, accessible washrooms, all of those things come into play. And so it's not an insignificant refit that would be undertaken. So I think that's an important consideration on the applicant's part.
Thank you for that, and I recognize that you're not our chief building official, but you're subject matter expert that we have at hand for now. But I think it may be important for us to understand that. It's not so much that whether this use is appropriate, but what else it will take for this applicant to make the building safe for our community to use as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Crothers, Councillor Foster, Councillor Leahy. Okay, I appreciated those comments because I was questioning the ability to conform under the uses as well, and so I think as this process moves forward, I think we'll continue to get clarity. And thanks everyone for coming tonight. That is wonderful. So, did we get a mover or a seconder on this yet, Madam Clerk? No, not yet. So I need a mover and a seconder, and then I'll read Councillor Crone. Councillor Roy DiClemente seconded it. Be it resolved that Development Services Planning Branch Report DS 2024-01 dated February 21st, 2024, entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application Grandview Equestrian Farms, Inc., 17743 McCowan Road, be received, and that comments presented at this statutory public planning meeting be addressed by the Development Services Planning Branch in a comprehensive report to a future Committee of the Whole Council meeting date. So thank you very much for coming, folks. Can I suggest maybe 5 minutes to take a recess and then Councillor?
Just as a procedural question for the folks here, if they have not provided the clerk with their information, how else would they know? So I'm just wondering if there's people who want to be notified of when that report comes back to us, they should probably be providing some information to our staff. Is that correct?
Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. So the forms are available in the back of the room as well. So if individuals that have not signed in today, they can. Alternatively, the planner on file has provided a contact information that was on the published agenda. So individuals are encouraged to also email the town with respect to this application.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that everyone's
Wonderful.
time was
No, it's great.
respected. Thank you.
It's actually 7:20 now. Let's just call it even 7:30. Can I get we'll recess and then start our next statutory meeting. Mover, Councillor Roy D. Clemente, seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? Motion carries. Wonderful. All right. Thanks, folks.
Send out the bouncer.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. So members in the audience, we're live. Staff, council members, we're live. Looks like we are good to proceed. So now, welcome back. Item J, this is our next statutory public meeting, and it's in regards to the zoning bylaw amendment application and draft plan of subdivision RCG Green Lane Northwest GP Inc., 18363 Leslie Street. I don't need to read my procedural comments again, as I delivered my procedural comments the last time, during the last meeting. But that takes us to our General Manager, Beijing, if you want to take the reins from here, and we'll get this meeting started.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd once again like to call on Mathieu Daou, our senior planner, who is also the planner for this application for the zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of subdivision. And he will provide the planning context for this application.
Perfect, thank you. And through you, Chair. Good evening, Mayor, members of Council, and any members of the public with us tonight. As I mentioned before, my name is Mathieu Daou, Senior Planner at the town, and I'm here to provide a presentation on the zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of subdivision application at 18363 Leslie Street. Next slide, please. So the subject lands are located north of Green Lane East, west of Highway 404, and east of Leslie Street. The property is approximately 16.8 hectares or 41.5 acres with frontage on Leslie Street, and the site is currently vacant. Next slide. The applicant is proposing to construct 3 employment use buildings with a total ground floor area of approximately 800,000 square feet. Access to the property will be provided through a future east-west collector road, also known as Harry Walker Parkway Extension. Next slide, please. The subject lands are located within the Highway 404 Employment Corridor Secondary Plan area, and the lands are primarily designated Prestige Employment, noted by the solid blue color in the figure attached. A small portion of the land is designated mixed-use business employment and environmental protection area. Next slide. The prestige employment designation is intended to provide prestige employment uses that require good access and high visibility along major transit routes. Some examples of permitted uses outlined in the secondary plan are offices, research and development, light industrial, including manufacturing, processing, warehousing, and distribution. Lands within the land use designation are to be designed in accordance with the Highway 404 Employment Corridor Urban Design Guidelines and shall be designed with high-profile buildings that utilize strong architectural design, building finishes, and landscaping. The mixed-use employment designation is intended to provide services that support the primary employment functions, and some examples include hotel, commercial schools, automobile service stations, ancillary uses, etc. The environmental protection area ultimately is aimed to protect areas which have been identified as having environmental importance or contain natural hazards. So planning staff note, we've identified some potential policy concerns and overall compatibility of the proposed use to the neighboring sensitive land uses. Next slide, please. The subject lands are currently zoned rural RU. The rural zone permits a range of agricultural and agricultural-related uses. Within the 404 Employment 404 Employment Corridor Secondary Plan, now in place, the site-specific amendments are required to rezone the lands to facilitate the development of employment uses within the secondary plan area. Next slide. The applicant is proposing to rezone the lands to 2 separate holding site-specific employment prestige zones. The applicant is proposing to retain all permitted uses within the existing M1 zone and is seeking zoning relief to permit the following additional land uses. namely a motor vehicle gas bar, motor vehicle sales/rental establishment, commercial school, drive-through facility, retail store ancillary use, distribution center, and as I mentioned, a holding provision will be in place on the subject lands until the region and town have confirmed servicing allocation is available and allocated to this development. Next slide, please. In addition, the applicant is proposing some site-specific zone provisions. The provisions are as followed. Amending the definition of building height, story, and distribution center. Accessory uses and ancillary uses are permitted as standalone uses. Ancillary uses will not exceed 600 square meters. Total ancillary use space on the individual site shall not exceed 2,500 square meters in total area. Total floor area of all accessory uses shall not exceed 10% of the total floor area of the primary employment use. Restaurants may be integrated into the employment use as a standalone building. Maximum floor space index of 2, maximum height of 14 meters, and some parking requirements around the distribution center. So planning staff note that the existing M1 zone currently permits accessory retail uses within an industrial mall, provided it does not exceed 300 square meters in size, or within a building at least 2 stories in height, and the combined floor space occupied by the ancillary use shall not exceed the total ground floor area of the industrial use. The existing M1 zone provisions do not have a minimum nor a maximum floor space index or a height requirement. The current M1 provisions do not have a minimum parking requirement for distribution centers. However, the parking provisions per a single use industrial use are one space per 100 square meters for the first 10,000 square meters of floor area, and 1 parking space per 200 square meters for anything beyond that figure. Next slide, please. The submitted zoning bylaw amendment application has been circulated and is currently under review by internal departments and external agencies. The following matters have been identified and will be addressed in a future recommendation report. Consistency and conformity with the provincial, regional, and local plans, notably compatibility of the proposed use and the job creation figures. Appropriateness and compatibility of the proposed development, notably conformity with the D6 Ministry of Environment guidelines. Review for any other zoning provision deficiencies, analysis of traffic implications through the site, evaluation of environmental boundaries on the site, and review of urban design guidelines. Next slide, please. So lastly, planning staff, at the time of preparing this presentation, had not received any comments from the public. As of this afternoon, we have received 2 correspondence of opposition from the public outlining concerns with traffic, particularly truck movements and loading, and the overall compatibility of the proposed land use to neighboring sensitive land uses, and ultimately concerns with compatibility with the Ministry of Environment D6 guidelines. Next slide, please. In conclusion, staff will undertake a technical review of the subject application, including discussions from today's public meeting presentation, and a comprehensive report with recommendations for the ZBA will be presented at a future council meeting. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. If we could turn it over to the applicant now to do their portion of the presentation.
Good evening, Acting Mayor Johns, members of council, and staff. My name is Arthi Thaya, and I'm the Development Manager at Rice Group on behalf of the property owners of 18363 Leslie Street, RCG Green Lane Northwest GP Inc. I would like to start off by conveying my thanks to staff for the review of our applications and the scheduling of tonight's public meeting. I look forward to being the liaison as we move through the processing of these applications. Here with me this evening is John McGovern, Michael Mendes, and Yannick Brent-Hedderis from Rice Group, and Michael Larkin from Larkin Land Use Planners. Next slide, please. Our subject site is 16 hectares in area and is located within the Highway 404 Employment Corridor Secondary Plan area, which extends across Highway 404 with Green Lane to the south, Woodbine to the east, and Mount Albert Side Road to the north. The site itself is bounded by Highway 404 to the east, Leslie Street to the west, future urban area to the north, and employment lands to the south. The property is well served by public street infrastructure through Leslie Street and Green Lane East, and also connects to the greater transit system with Highway 404 located nearby to the east and GO Transit to the west. Next slide, please. The objective of the proposed development is to permit a variety of employment uses, including industrial, office, and commercial uses that will be grouped into 3 structures for potential combined GFA of approximately 75,000 square meters, consistent with the articulated vision for the town's Highway 404 Employment Corridor Secondary Plan. Access to the property will be provided from a proposed east-west collector road off of Leslie Street. This local collector road will also provide access and frontage to mixed employment lands to the south. The property's primary access will be from Green Lane East with the future northern extension of Harry Walker Parkway. After reviewing the comments from the Heritage Advisory Committee, we will provide ample landscape buffers to the neighboring Sharon burying grounds to screen any visual impact. Screening based on MECP guidelines will be provided to the northern property limits of our site in respect to the existing and contemplated residential uses to the north so that the land uses can coexist. Based on the conceptual plan, this proposed development will generate 998 full-time direct jobs, of which 918 will be industrial related and 80 office related. This generation of stats is based on the floor space per employee ratio for industrial and office space and was calculated by Urban Metrics as per the 2019 Town of East Gwillimbury Development Charges Background Study. Given the lot area of 16.8 hectares, the site's density factor will be 59 jobs per hectare, exceeding the secondary plan's density target of 45 jobs per hectare. The vision for this site is to establish a high-quality employment development in a prime location in the town of EG. Next slide, please. As part of any good development, understanding how it fits into and is beneficial to not only the region, but the town's vision for EG is key. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the articulated vision of the York Region Official Plan. The proposed amendment will bring the land use policies for this area into conformity with the Regional Official Plan. The proposed development will provide significant employment opportunities and the provision of jobs in the town of EG. Furthermore, the location of the subject lands in the proximity to Highway 404 will ensure that the subject lands remains well connected to the broader region. The subject lands are a designated employment area by the Town of East Gwillimbury Official Plan. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the goals, objectives, and the policies of the Town of EG as it articulates land use vision for these lands. The Highway 404 Employment Corridor Secondary Plan supports the development form proposed through these applications. The subject lands are designated mixed-use employment on the westerly edge, prestige employment for the balance of the lands, with a proposed major collector road running west to east. Permitted uses within the mixed business designation are offices, hotels, conference centers, commercial schools, automobile service stations, and automotive commercial uses. Permitted uses within the prestige employment are offices, research and development uses, industrial uses, hotels, and conference centers. The proposed development conforms to the policies of the secondary plan and will maximize the existing and future labor pool, transportation linkages, and proximity to the markets in the town. Next slide, please. We are seeking the town's support and approval of a proposal to rezone the subject lands from rural to prestige employment with site-specific exceptions to permit this development. The development form will comply with the uses permitted in the prestige employment area and will be implemented as per the town's urban design guidelines. Site-specific zoning requests, such as amending the definition of building height and story to allow for mezzanines, mechanical penthouses, and specify roofs, are in order to meet today's standard for industrial uses of a 14-meter clear height. We specifically added distribution center under uses, although it does fall under the permitted warehouse use for added clarity, and allowing for standalone accessory and ancillary uses, along with integrated restaurants in order to meet changing market requirements. We are also proposing site-specific parking requirements to meet the larger uses based on change in market. Next slide, please. The development of the subject lands requires the approval of a draft plan of subdivision to create the lot fabric and facilitate the installation of the physical infrastructure necessary to service the proposed development. The draft plan of subdivision application proposes to establish 4 blocks, one for the area intended for the development of the proposed employment uses, and the 3 others for the internal streets, associated daylighting triangles, and road widening of Leslie Street. Next slide, please. The proposal provides an active transportation plan, which includes a multi-use path, bicycle lanes, turning lanes from Leslie Street onto the proposed collector road, and will connect Leslie Street to Green Lane East and Harry Walker Parkway through the lands to the south of the subject site. Adequate capacity exists along Highway 404, Green Lane, Harry Walker Parkway, and Leslie Street to accommodate the proposed development and future developments. Intersection improvements will be implemented along Leslie Street with the proposed collector road. Extensive coordination and collaboration with town staff have been undertaken to ensure that the road geometry reflects the town-approved design practices while providing safe access to the employment blocks, the adjacent lands, the daycare lands, and permits unimpeded flow of traffic. Next slide, please. The existing storm drainage generally drains to the existing Sharon Creek shown in the dark blue line on the screen. Post-development drainage patterns will generally follow the pre-drainage patterns, providing an outlet for each lot to Sharon Creek. In addition, each lot will have its own on-site control to match pre-development flow rates. There is an existing sanitary sewer located on Harry Walker Parkway. The sewer is proposed to be extended up to the north end of the Harry Walker Parkway extension to provide a sanitary service. We will work with the town and the region regarding allocation and finalizing the connection to Harry Walker Parkway. Another proposed sanitary sewer would be installed along the east-west collector road. However, the sewer will remain inactive until the future sanitary sewer is installed on Leslie Street. There is an existing trunk water main running north-south along Leslie Street and another local water main south of Green Lane on Harry Walker Parkway. The subject lands will be provided with water via a 300 water main that will be installed as part of the Harry Walker Parkway expansion and will service the entirety of the proposed employment development lands. Next slide, please. The Natural Heritage Report submitted as part of our application process indicates a minor watercourse with low-quality attributes and ecological functions that traverse the subject lands in a north-south direction to the east of the midpoint of the property. The watercourse is identified by the York Region Official Plan as being a supporting function, and thus not a primary environmental feature. Supported by the fieldwork and assessments undertaken, the physical characteristics of the watercourse suggest that its supporting area function for surface water conveyance can be maintained through the proposed pipe and not result in any negative ecological impacts. Next slide, please. We have been working diligently with the Town of EG, York Region, and the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority to appropriately plan our proposed development to ensure we are maximizing benefits to the communities we are members of through job creation, sustainable practices, and positive ecological offsetting. We are able to do so by working with a well-known team of experts in both their respective fields and industry who are passionate about developing the site with good planning, design, and engineering principles that will ensure this development is built in a respectful manner with resident and business quality of life protected in EG. Next slide, please. As active and long-term members of EG, we are aligned with the town's strategic plan to focus on environmental stewardship, social well-being, and responsible growth, both now and into the future when developing our employment sites. We explore how our employment sites will allow for development of quality employment opportunities for the area, thus contributing to the town's economic base by providing a sustainable tax base that can support quality programs and services. Next slide, please. We thank council and staff for their time this evening and all their cumulative efforts regarding this proposed development.
We look forward to working with the town of EG to appropriately execute our proposed development to ensure we're maximizing benefits to the community we continue to be members of. We look forward to hearing feedback from council and the public this evening and working together to address any items that may come up. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. This takes us to our public comments section. I don't think I need to do the procedural comments on decorum. Everybody was here for that. And so I'd be happy to move forward into the specific comments. I know there was some speakers that were registered for tonight. Madam Clerk, do you have their names?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. We have, at this moment, 3 registered speakers for tonight's public meeting. The first individual on the list is Shelley Ambing.
Great, wonderful. Thank you for coming. Just a reminder that you have 5 minutes, and there you go. Welcome.
Thank you, Acting Mayor, members of council. My name's Shelley Ambing. I'm the Lucky Director of East Gwillimbury Children's Center that is located at 18335B Leslie Street on the property of Mr. Besnilian, which is 18335 Leslie Street. In theory, I have no problem with development. I'm a child care center, so safety will always be my priority when people are developing around the area. Safety and noise level. At this point, I have an entrance to my building, or to the child care center off of Leslie Street. The proposal from Rice Group shows an entrance immediately north of my entrance. So I don't know how that impacts I know there, from what Rice Group has stated, there will be an entrance off of Harry Walker Parkway. I'm obliged right now by the region to put in a pork chop, a right hand in, right hand out only. I'm a not-for-profit. I'm not a commercial center. So I just need to understand the timeline around the development. I'd prefer trees than trucks if I want to be honest with development, but that's not how the world works. So I guess I'll take whatever council decides on developing. But that's all basically I have to say, is that just take into consideration I'm dealing with little people, safety and noise, and my entrance off of Leslie Street, how I'm going to be impacted, because I'm to ensure the entrance is done this spring. So that's a big hit financially for me, when it's going to be a throwaway cost eventually, which could be sooner than later. So that's my spiel. Thank you.
Thanks for your entrepreneurship. Thanks for the work that you're doing. Next speaker.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry. Oh,
You might be sending me.
you're okay. Madam Clerk, our next speaker.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the next speaker on the list is Don Given.
Thank you, Mr. Given. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Your Worship and members of council. I'm here on behalf of the owners of Walnut Farm, which is immediately to the north of this property. You'll remember it's a building with a red barn. Dr. Watson, unfortunately, can't attend. He's still on vacation. And Paul Bailey couldn't attend, so I'm here for both of them to speak to you that we have had some discussions between the owners to try to come up with some approach that would create a compatible interface between the employment lands and the residential to the north that is planned. You'll recall that your council did identify that area to the north, the Walnut Farm, as a residential area, and when you adopted the official plan. And in the secondary plan that you had before you today, it showed a more detailed land use plan, which is similar to what we're thinking for that area. But the way we'd like to leave it with you is this is a very important asset that you would be getting into the municipality. The jobs will be created. There will be lots of good taxes, I'm sure. And we just like to make sure that in the future they can coexist, the residential to the north and the employment to the south. And we'll have further discussions with the proponent to try to come up with a solution between us. We don't want you to have to referee that. We'd like to try to work it out ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you sincerely for coming forward tonight and putting that on the record. It's appreciated. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chair, your next registered speaker, which is the last one on this list, is Karen Mahoney.
Yeah, Sharon, Baring Ground. Thanks, Karen. You got 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
5 minutes. I had sent in a presentation. If
Andrew's got it coming up here. Great.
There we go. Good evening, Acting Mayor Johns, members of council, staff, everyone here and online. I am Karen Mahoney. This is Tara Downing, and we are with the Sharon Burying Ground. Next slide, please. Just a refresher on who we are. The Sharon Burying Ground was established around 1812 by members of the Children of Peace. In 1952, the Sharon Burying Ground Association was formed, and in 1990, the town of East Gwillimbury designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. In 2014, the Sharon Burying Ground Association was incorporated. Next slide, please. Heritage, and it's Heritage Week in Ontario. How exciting. Historical cemeteries hold a unique significance in our cultural heritage. Each cemetery is a biography of its community, reflecting the lives, beliefs, and values of those buried here. Cemeteries are like outdoor museums, full of history and iconic figures, including David Wilson and Ebenezer Doane, who, of course, built the magnificent temple beside us. Visiting them allows us to learn about our local past and the people who shaped it. Next slide, please. Concerns. Now, I would like to preface this with both Tara and myself have been in the transportation industry for well over 30 years. We know big trucks. So with that, Tara is going to speak to our concerns.
Thank you. Thank you. Some of our concerns are vibration due to the roads, the trucks that are going to be in this facility. There is several loading docks on the plan. The reason we're concerned about this for our location is our soil and ground disturbances that happen. Even with the existing building that happened around Sharon, we noticed graves collapsing, grounds changing. And we're just a little bit concerned with what's going on around us, that once the building is actually being built, plus once it's in operation, that there are going to be some impacts to us. Some other things I'd like to say is the stones are fragile and brittle, so vibrations also could knock them over, cause a hazard that way as well, which we try very hard to keep everything in play. On our pictures, you can see road salt is a genuine concern to us. This is a picture of the fence, the middle pictures of the fence that we had to put up in order to prevent the road salt coming in and damaging our stones. Now with the proposed building, there's going to be building on both sides of us, but we realize there might be salt usage from the parking lot, plowing into our perimeter potentially. We're a little bit concerned about also the buffer that leads us to the buffer between our property and the buildings. We're also concerned about limits to the access of the back of our property. I know right now it's a field, but if we had to get in, we could. With buildings around, we're blocked in on two sides. And I think that's about it.
Next slide, please. So, suggestions and comments. The applicant is proposing to rezone to site-specific prestige employment. However, the building design seems to be a massive warehouse. Negative impacts to the Sharon Burying Ground could include shadowing, land disturbances, direct or indirect obstruction. We would welcome a heritage impact assessment to be completed prior to any zoning changes. Provide an adequate buffer between the Sharon Burying Ground and proposed development, and work with the Sharon Burying Ground Board to understand our concerns. Next slide, please.
Got about a minute, Karen.
And thank you to the town of East Gwillimbury and to the East Gwillimbury Heritage Advisory Council for recognizing the importance of the Sharon Barron ground. Thank you.
I was trying to be respectful all night, and then I saw. Yes, thank you. Thank you for the work that you've done, and thank you to the Heritage Committee and the volunteers for the work that they're doing. It's sincerely appreciated. Okay, people that's everybody that's been registered?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Great. Any other members from the audience that would like to speak? Yep, come on down, sir. If you could state your name and your address in 5 minutes.
Will do. Thank you. Mr. Acting Mayor, council members, my name is Yancey Ambing. I'm acting on behalf of Mr. Besnilian, as well as Shelley Ambing, the Executive Director of the daycare. The address, of course, is 18335. Thank you, Leslie Street. We're here, much to what Shelley alluded to, is to ensure that council and members of staff, as well as Rice Group, who happen to be present tonight, understand some of the concerns that we have brought forward and will bring forward and continue to bring forward. Before that, I would like to commend both Mayor Haxon, who we would like to hope for a speedy recovery also, and as well as members of council and staff, and commend them on the tremendous amount of volume work that was put forward to allow this daycare to go in place. And we have to commend them. It was tremendous. It took 4 years, and we're up and operating, and we have employment, and we have lots of children that are being taken care of. Some of the areas of concern, which I believe will be alleviated, because I believe Rice Group is going to work very hard with both the owner of the property as well as the executive director in order to make sure that these things are taken care of. I'd like to, with your indulgence, I'm late to the game with regards to one file that I'd like to have up on the screen, if it's okay with you.
I mean, if it's ready and loaded,
It
great.
is.
If it would be circulated to an email to planning staff, that is good too. I just want to be fair to everybody that
I
I've been
understand.
saying all night, 5 minutes, so.
Right, it provides context.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you could, please. Thank you. So what you have is that I have taken the liberty of actually placing the daycare, and you can zoom in if you wish a little bit, actually in the location where it's actually currently sitting. It also shows what Shelley had alluded to earlier was the road at the front. So we're positioned somewhat in between, and then the road at the front, you can clearly demonstrate how it's going to impact the entrance. So the area of concern is this. And there may not be areas of concern. As I say, I think Rice Group is very, very much looking forward to working with the parties involved, as well as staff, is the entrance. The entrance is an emergency access, as well as for staff and children and families to gain access to the daycare. There will be provisions, I understand, for egress and into the area coming from the future Harry Walker Parkway. Having said that, you can see what we originally had put there, and they can move around based on elevations, but there's little tiny curvatures. And if you could zoom in just a little bit, please, to the daycare. Sorry, there. You can see the road in and the road out. Maybe it's not going to be presented there, but we want to make sure that when the road to Leslie Street is actually actively being worked on, that these elements are in place to provide safety and access. So there's going to be some kind of, one would have to be very careful about how you approach the extension of Harry Walker, because you will inevitably cut off the extension to Leslie. The other thing which I think has been taken care of is the servicing. The daycare currently is on a septic sewage system, private sewage system, as well as a well. And I think it's always been understood that at some point that the daycare, as well as Mr. Bazilian's current structure at the front, will be serviced at some point with services that go through. I understand from the presentation earlier that the services will go up. They will not be connected immediately to the street, but I understand that there will make some provisions for that. We'd like to get off of the private and get onto the municipal, as well as having potable water from municipal source and firefighting. These are the three really important aspects, and I don't want to say much more. I just wanted to bring these points. And generally, I believe that we don't have a problem with the development as it is, as long as we have very close contact with the various parties involved.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for coming tonight, and thank you for registering your comments. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will make that available, that document.
Yeah, please, appreciate it. Make it part of the process.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Any other members of the public that wish to speak tonight? Seeing none, it's council's opportunity. Do any members of council wish to say a few words, ask questions, comments on the, yeah, Councillor Foster, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to reiterate the fact that I was happy to hear that you were willing to make some provisions for the heritage aspect of the Sharon Burying Ground, for sure. I know that you've seen the recommendations put forth by the Heritage Advisory Committee. I don't know how you feel about all of those, but I just want to urge that you be sympathetic to the Sharon Burying Ground and the fact that there's a good chance there's going to be an establishment of a heritage conservation district very close to your location there. So I just hope that there are ways that we can work to make everything work. So again, I urge you to be sympathetic to those things, and I certainly hope you will.
Any other members of council? Councillor Roy DiClemente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sort of two, I guess, big items that I'd like to address. One being the EP zone, the lands that are zoned EP that run through the middle of the property. When we dealt with the site plan for the daycare, we were pretty excited because it meant that there was going to be a daycare that had green space and a creek in the backyard for the kids to play in, and not a concrete pad with a cozy coop to ride around in. And I was a little distressed, quite honestly, to hear that that water course is, which is essentially a tributary of the Sharon Creek, being described as something that wasn't important and could just be diverted into a pipe. And so I sort of would like to hear more about why that is the case when it was such an important feature of the daycare, and it's zoned EP in our planning documents. So that's one thought. The other one was I wanted to understand a little bit better the how I don't see 1,000 parking spots here. And so when I look at the job descriptions here, I'm seeing 80 office workers and 918 industrial jobs. As I understand it, the urban metrics methodology is that it's essentially how many people you can fit into a building. If it's a distribution center, those aren't office jobs. There are not 1,000 people working in a distribution center. So I'd like to understand a little bit better where those numbers come from. I'd prefer to have something more concrete than how many people can you fit in a building this big. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. I believe that if the applicant would like to respond to that, those two comments.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to address both comments. So the current tributary that runs through the site, it is marked by your region as a supporting function. Most of the time, based on our field investigations and assessment, it is quite dry. That's why we're proposing to pipe it in order to allow for the employment opportunities to take place, and we're able to compensate in other areas. In regards to how we come up with the actual employment generation numbers, it is based on the EGDC background study, and it's based on numbers that are separated based on how much of the building is actually allocated towards warehousing and how much of it is actually allocated towards office use. And so that's how we come up with the breakdown of how many of the jobs are actually office-based and how much of the jobs are actually industrial or warehouse-based. So that was how the numbers are sort of derived. As we've always done with many of our other employment sites in EG, as we do get confirmed tenants, we come back, revise those numbers, present that to council, committee, and staff, and then we work with you to ensure that we're able to meet the density targets that you're looking for employment.
Thank you, and I'd also give the opportunity to our staff as well, just as I gave the opportunity to yourself to respond. Do any members of our staff wish to respond? Ms. Bégin?
I can through you, Mr. Chair, I can certainly respond. In 25 plus years of economic development, I've never used that as a metric for job creation. It's typically you look at who the tenant is or what the industry is and who's going to be locating at the facility and give an accurate estimation of the jobs that will be there. It's not done based on floor space.
Thank you. Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you. I just, I will again stress the importance to me as far as the land is showing on our official plan designation as EP. And so that is important. I think if you want to build around it, that's fine, but it's important to the other supporting areas that are linked into that green space. Obviously, I look forward to hearing from staff on the policy concerns that they have, and absolutely, we have some very important neighboring sensitive land uses, and I appreciate Mr. Given being here today and addressing some of those and knowing that, you know, all parties will work together and we don't have to referee a boxing match, but it is very important. This is the gateway into the Sharon community. We're very proud of this section of Leslie Street as the entrance into our town core, and we want to make this the very best it possibly can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. This side of the table, Councillor Leahy, any comments? None? Yeah, Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Johns. Just wanted to thank everyone for being here to say your piece, and I truly appreciate the fact that, you know, to you, Mr. Givens, you actually had the wherewithal to go and approach the Rice Group and express your concerns, and I think that's really proactive, and it makes our job easier. So I thank you for doing that, and I thank everyone for expressing their concerns. And so I would say, much like I said to the previous public meeting we had, you know, you've heard the concerns today about, you know, what everyone's thinking about your development. So I would encourage you to work with everyone, be good neighbors, and see if you can work out something that everyone can live with, so that we can have that win-win relationship with everyone. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
Councillor Crothers, any comments? No. So I guess I'll provide my final comments. I want to go onto the record and say that you know, Councillor Roy DeClemente made the comment about kind of the gateway into East Gwillimbury and whatnot, but to me it extends a bit further in that it just can't be an option. Like, it is a must, and it has to be, like, we are protecting the burial ground, like, full stop. Not we're thinking about how can we support with additional buffering or space. Like, I think that a commitment to say we recognize the historical importance to the town, and we will do everything we can to protect it. That's that. Now, on the Walnut Farm, I think it is admirable to be able to come here and have the discussion. I am not an owner of Walnut Farm, but me growing up here, it is a part of who we are. And I think that standing in front of protecting that and recognizing that cultural and historical importance as part of that, again, thank you for the ownership group to decide that they want to make that a part of it. So if we are recognizing that that needs to be protected, I think that you know, whether people will agree or disagree, and that's like the challenge of politics. You know, it was only a year and a half ago that I was banging on doors and people said, we want less houses, which is like, in a housing crisis, it's kind of crazy. And they said they wanted more business. They were dying for more business. As I come and sit in this chair, and I come to realize the actual specific stats, like less than 10% of East Gwillimbury residents work in town. And like, we have to do way better on that. And we need a diversified tax base. 85% of our tax base comes from comes from residential. Well, that's bonkers too. So we need these employment lands, and we have such a strong partner that is at the table that's wanting to work with us. I recognize the challenge on that tributary. I mean, if you look in the city, yeah, they pipe it and they move on, and so that's going to have to be something that a staff work to make recommendations on, and we figure out. But the fact is that we need these employment lands. We need this to happen, and we need the right buffering into the residential, and we have to respect our heritage, like full stop, no questions, like it's not even like discussion, should we, shouldn't we, it's full stop. And so I think if we can move forward with that understanding, I'm sorry, I know I'm just registering comments and I'm going on a bit, but I just think it is, I want to register my comments, full stop, protect our heritage. We have willing partners that are already going beyond to make sure that we're protecting our heritage on private property, which we don't own, and so that's great. And I think that the next phase of where we are going is we need to balance out being able to get our residents places to work, and so that their quality of life can be improved. And so, thank you. That's all I have to say about that. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going through my head here with all the information that we've had in the past on the Child Care Centre and everything else that's gone on there. Maybe, Ms. Bejean, you might be able to help me out here, but I'm just thinking about the possibility of the information that's came down about the entrance off of Leslie Street that you are supposed to fix. And I'm thinking that's a regional deal, not necessarily us. But so I certainly can't see any sense in that improvement being done if the road is going to be improved too. I know we're very early on this situation, but could you maybe speak, or should we be requesting some information to see if there's any way that we can help out with this? Like, if I'm thinking if we're sitting on this side of the table, and we can make it easier. I'm not sure how that can be done, but can we help get together on this somehow?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to defer to my colleague, Mr. Molinari, as he's been more involved in sort of the planning side of the access.
Through you, Madam Chair, or Mr. Chair, the entrance is. It's controlled by York Region, so they would be the ones that would be determining what's required at that location. But certainly, you know, if timing, if we know the timing of when the entrance and when the ultimate road is going to go in, and that timing is very short, that may have an impact as to what is required at that location. But you know, there are traffic issues with that entrance now in the current configuration and the temporary nature of the bollards that are in that in the roadway. So there's a couple of competing interests on this one, protecting and putting in infrastructure that's going to work in the interim, and also making sure that the ultimate infrastructure is going to go in, and that ultimate infrastructure needs to kind of function for the ultimate case. So the bottom line is, yes, we will work with the region on what we can do to kind of find out what that timing difference is, and if the difference is minimal, then that allows for some flexibility. If it's not, that timeliness is not there, then you know, I think that the plan as originally proposed is probably what the region's going to go for, but we'll have that conversation with them.
Thank you. I'm just thinking I would hate to see any money be spent that doesn't have to be spent, and it's not going to be cheap, obviously. So if there's any way we can help out is what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you. I absolutely support Councillor Foster's suggestion. The challenge I think we have is that this particular application I don't believe has any sewage allocation, and so timelines might be somewhat restricted in that respect. Meanwhile, we do have a significant safety issue with the entrance and exiting from that. And I wanted to point out as well that the daycare is an absolutely gorgeous building from an architectural perspective. And people are often surprised when I tell them it's a daycare, because it's too pretty. They don't understand what's happening there. And for us to contemplate putting some industrial boxes across the street with trucks and small children together, I think is a challenge. I think we have lots of other land, even within the ownership of these folks, where this could be adequately and very quickly put in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other Councillor Carruthers?
Thanks. I've been holding off commenting because, you know, if you don't have anything nice to say, maybe don't say anything. Come on, we can do better than this. This is the entrance to our town. Warehouses right there at the entrance to what is going to be a historic district next to the daycare, as has already been said. This isn't a project that we would want in this location, and as has already been said by my colleagues, there's other places to put this. I just think it's absolutely terrible planning to have this at the entrance to a historic district, next to a historic burying ground, next to a daycare. To me, it doesn't make any sense at all. So I hope that we can look for something different to go on this land that would provide the employment that we so badly need without it being more warehousing. Thank you.
Any other councillors wish to speak? Okay, so what we are now needing is a mover and a seconder for this. Can I get a mover? Councillor Foster, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Leahy. Be it resolved that the Development Services Planning Branch Report DS2's 2024-02 dated February 21st, 2024, entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application RCG Green Lane, Northwest GP Inc., 18363 Leslie Street, be received, and that comments presented at this statutory public planning meeting be addressed by the Development Services Planning Branch in a comprehensive report to a future committee of the whole council meeting. So moved, seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Takes us to item K in the agenda. There was a piece of correspondence put on the agenda for from Enbridge Gas. It was dated January 30th. Regarding phase one, I think Councillor Roy DiClemente, I think you asked to add it to the correspondence. Can
Yes.
I get you to move that?
Sure, happy to move it. I was just going to request that when we receive it, that we also send it to staff for some additional context by way of a report or memo to help us understand the issue and whether or not we should actually engage or just receive.
Okay, so moved by yourself and seconded by Councillor Leahy. Councillor Roy DiClemente, your comments were noted. Is there any other comments from the members of council? And then we'll come back to you again, Councillor Roy DiClemente. Councillor Carruthers?
I'm fine if staff think that it's something that they do want to report back on. To me, this is an Ontario Energy Board decision, and we don't typically weigh into these types of things. So I'm not sure that's something that we want to be spending our staff time on, but I'm happy to hear the other side of that.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to respond to that, and that was that Enbridge doesn't often send these sorts of things to us, and so it's the means by which many of our residents are heating their homes, and if there's an issue of potential supply, even if we were trying to heat the Health and Active Living Plaza and there's no capacity, I wanted to understand that. So that's really where I was coming at it from, was just to understand why they would write to us and what the issue was, and then we could decide what we wanted to do with it.
Great, so the motion right now was to receive, and then you added...
that we send it to staff for additional context by way of a report or memo.
Great, so that's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. It brings us to item L, reports. There's none at this time. Going to bylaws. Bylaw 2024-14 being a bylaw to repeal bylaw 2019-14, and then the bylaw 2024-15 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019, specifically Schedule A, to appoint building officials, corporation of the town. Moved by Councillor Roy DiClemente, seconded by Councillor Carruthers. Be it resolved that bylaws 2024 and 2020. You guys know I don't actually even have to read these. Why? It's part of the show, folks. All those in favor? All those opposed, motion carries. N, other business. None at this time. This is our confirming bylaw, so we get to confirm all the work that we've been doing here tonight. Moved by Councillor Crone, seconded by Councillor Foster. Be it resolved that bylaw 2024, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council held on February 21st, be taken as read, enacted, signed by the mayor, municipal clerk. All those in favor? Carried. And the motion to adjourn, who wants it? Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Leahy. All those in favor? Motion carries 8:25 p.m. There we go. Thanks, folks.
That's all, folks.
Yeah.